Hello everybody, this is Brian Baugh, creator of Wulf and Batsy. Back with you for another video. It's been a while. I haven't done any videos on this channel in quite some time because I was absolutely consumed with doing fulfillment for the Wulf and Batsy issues 10, 11, and 12 campaign, which you guys supported so much. We just got finished shipping them all out. The fulfillment is done. See all these comic book boxes? This is where the stock was kept. All the copies that I shipped out to you guys, they were all organized in here. But they're empty now. Nothing in that one. This box has some back issues. Those of you who ordered the entire series, issues 1 through 12, man, I got a lot of orders for that, and I can't believe how much of the back stock I had to ship out. But thank you guys so much for taking so many of these back issues off my hands. I really appreciate it, and I'm so thankful that there are people who love the series enough that they want to support it like that and get the whole series and read the whole story and everything. But look at this. This is like all I have left of issue 10. Like 3 copies? 3? And they're spoken for, by the way, already too, so don't even ask. Sorry. I got like 2 copies of issue 11 left. And weirdly, no, 3, I guess. Anyway, weirdly enough, I ended up with 25 copies left of issue 12. So I've put those up on my website store. Just go to brianbaugh.net and click the store button. That'll take you there. And you can grab these if you missed them. But yeah, issue 10 and 11 are essentially sold out. So I am seriously thinking about doing a second chance campaign because I've gotten a lot of emails from people saying, man, I missed out. How can I get the issues? So that'll give people a second chance, literally. So starting to put that project together. Now here's something else that I wanted to show you guys. I was digging around in storage today, and I found some really weird stuff that you guys might be interested in. Check this out. I found my entire back stock of old Tales from Blue Sagoth ash cans. Many months ago, I did a video on YouTube talking about these, where I actually went through them and opened them up and showed the different issues and the interior artwork. This was my first attempt to actually self-publish and sell my own little comic book. It was sort of a monster comic book in science fiction disguise. Lizard men, zombies, dinosaurs, alien creatures, space princesses, the works. Anyway, find that video on my YouTube channel and you can learn all about Tales from Blue Sagoth and see every page as I go through them. Yeah, I printed these up in like 1994, 95, 96 and sold them at the Chicago Comic-Con. And I just found them all. Found a whole bunch of these. After I did that last video about them, I just had I think I just had like 1 copy of all 4 issues. And I got some emails and people asking how they can still buy them. And I was like, I don't know, they're lost, put away in some box in storage somewhere. Well, guess what? Here's the box. So if you are actually interested in these, which I don't know who would be, but maybe if you're a hardcore Wulf and Batsy fan and are curious to see some of my really early stuff, I don't know. If you want them, maybe I'll throw these up on my website store and make them available for you guys to order if you want them. Leave a comment on this video and let me know. So what else is in this box? Let's see. Well, let's see. More copies of that. Oh, okay. Here's something interesting. Here we have the very first edition of Wulf and Batsy, published by Chanting Monks Press in 2005. Gosh, this feels like, this is almost like mint condition. This is like 19 years old. And I've never taken it out of this plastic before. I have a pretty big backstock of these too. The very first time Wulf and Batsy ever got picked up by a publisher was a little company called Chanting Monks Press. And they put out this first edition of Wulf and Batsy. We got Joe Chiodo to do the cover painting. And we got this printed up, and it was sold in comic book stores back in 2005. That was the first little bump of recognition that Wulf and Batsy enjoyed. If you're familiar with the series, you can tell just by looking at this. It's the We Have No Home storyline. There you go. All in one fat volume. Chapters 1 and 2. Essentially the same content that makes up the new ongoing series, issues 1 and 2. Although, you might be curious to know that this is actually the first printing. So, some of the artwork is different. Because when I did my my new ongoing series version, I did do some revisions to the art. Redrew some of these panels for the new release version in 2021. This is the old version, the original, first printing. So, yeah, there's a pretty decent sized backstock of these. I mean, it's weird. It's like, you know, this thing came out in 2005, and it was really super cool, and, you know, it was in stores, and I got some response from it, but Chanting Monks Press did not last very long, unfortunately. They sort of dipped into the small press, independent comic book thing, and kind of decided to take a break very shortly afterwards. So this came out, and I got a nice big stock of them sent to me, which was kind of cool and everything, but yeah, never knew what to do with them because, you know, it was sort of like Wulf and Batsy was a blip on the indie comics scene radar for 5 minutes, and then nobody cared about it anymore. so I've been stuck for 19 years with all these all the back stock of the very first printed version. Oh, here's something else interesting. This is another series that Chanting Monks Press put out. Zacherley's Midnight Terrors. This had the first. This was the first time a Wulf and Batsy short story was printed, and it was the story called If You Knew, which has been since reprinted in Wulf and Batsy issue 12, which is an anthology issue. Although, once again, it's laid out a little differently because this was for Zacherley's Midnight Terrors, so I had to put a drawing of Zacherley in there to introduce it. And here's something interesting. The next publisher that picked up Wulf and Batsy was Viper Comics, who already had this cool young artist working for them named Josh Howard, doing a series called Dead at 17. You now might know him better for T-Bird and Throttle. But that's when Josh and me became friends, and they decided to publish Wulf and Batsy also, and basically they just put out We Have No Home again. So, you know, this story was in print again, but this time with a Josh Howard cover. And they did 3 issues. They did, I love this cover that Josh did. This was for Bizarre Experiments Chapter 1, which would now be Wulf and Batsy issue 3 in the new ongoing series. And then, what do you know? 2008 rolled around, we had a big financial crash, and Viper Comics kind of went the same way as Chanting Monks. They decided they needed to take a hiatus from printing. Meanwhile, I was getting emails from people who really liked my series saying, when's the next one coming out? So I emailed the guys at Viper and I said, would you guys be okay if I went ahead and self-published my own issues next just to keep it going for the readers until you guys are ready to start publishing again. And they said, sure, go ahead. And so I did my own little small press print on demand run of issue 4 and got Josh to do a cover. If you're collecting the current ongoing series, you already have this story. It's the next chapter of Bizarre Experiments, which occurs in Wulf and Batsy issue 4 now of the new series. But this was the first printing in the, in between Viper and me figuring out how to self-publish on my own era. So probably 2008, 2009, this would have come out, something like that. Thanks again for that awesome cover, Josh. I did not print up very many of these. This comic book right here might actually be the rarest Wulf and Batsy item ever printed, because I did so few of them before I kind of figured out, print on demand back then, the cost of printing per issue and trying to come up with a reasonable cover price. It just didn't the math didn't work out very well. So then I figured out it was much smarter to just go to trade paperbacks, which cost a little more to print per copy, but you could put a lot more pages in them, a lot more content, and a little bit higher cover price, and it was still a reasonable price for a book that size, while being economical to print. So after this one, the Viper Comics ongoing series version ended, and I switched to self-publishing trade paperbacks, which proved to be much more successful. And the last curiosity in this box is a big stack of my old self-published trade paperbacks. Let me get these out and show them to you. Wow, there's like 2 big stacks of these. Okay, so after Viper Comics, and I decided to start self-publishing Wulf and Batsy on my own, through trial and error, I figured out that trade paperbacks were actually the better way to go. I collected all of the content that existed up to that point in Volume 1, which is not here. That's the only one not in this box, apparently. The Volume 1 trade paperback included the We Have No Home story arc, which you can now get in the ongoing series issues 1 and 2, and the Bizarre Experiments story arc, which is now available in the ongoing series in issues 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, but the first trade paperback that I put out in 2008 had both of those stories collected in one book. And it sold. I was surprised by how many people bought it and really enjoyed it. And so then I said, okay, cool, I'll keep doing Wulf and Batsy. And I made this new story, which was called Lustmord Nightmares. This one became sort of a fan favorite. I worked on it for about 3 years or something. I don't know. But it's like a 278-page story. Lots of monsters, lots of cute girls. This is around the time when I got really heavily into European horror movies, Euro cult cinema, Paul Naschy movies, Gene Rollin movies. I'm probably pronouncing that Frenchman's name wrong. My apologies. And Mario Bava movies and all the great Euro horror cult directors and filmmakers from the 1960s and 70s, Barbara Steele movies, this kind of thing. This story, Lustmord Nightmares, was very heavily inspired by the Karnstein movie trilogy from Hammer Horror Films, which is The Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, and Twins of Evil. That movie trilogy really was a big inspiration for this storyline. But this one went over kind of big. People really liked this one. I mean, big within my tiny little audience at the time. But this one became kind of a fan favorite. And this character right here, her name is Kershey. She was a very important supporting character in this story, and the people who read this book really, there's a lot of people who really fell in love with her and have repeatedly asked me to bring her back into the series, and I just have to get to a point where the story kind of demands her return, but she was quite popular with my little following. So it's also worth mentioning that my old buddy Josh Howard has told me that this book, Lust More Nightmares, is actually his favorite Wulf and Batsy story of all time. He is a big fan of this one. But it was super fun to make this book. I had a blast drawing this story, and my tentative plan is, assuming I keep doing the current ongoing comic book series, I might start reprinting this storyline in issue 14 or 15 and let it go through like issue 20, somewhere around there. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. But that'll probably start like in 2025. But yeah, so there's the trade paperback of Lust More Nightmares. I would love to put copies of this up for sale on my website store, but I only found one copy in this box. And if I have any more in backstock, they're in some other box in storage somewhere, and I don't know where they are, and I'll find them by accident some other day, I guess. But you can still order this on Indie Planet. The print-on-demand company that made this book was called Kablam Printing. In 2009, I believe, or 2010, maybe this came out. Anyway, they have their own online store where they sell copies of anything that people print through them. So you can go on Indie Planet, just go on Google and put in Indie Planet Wulf and Batsy, and you'll get the whole menu with all my trade paperbacks available on there for order, and you can get your own copy of Lust More Nightmares. Or you can wait until, I don't know, next year or whenever I get around to reprinting this in the current ongoing series. Personally, I'm really looking forward to revisiting this story and these characters. It's a fun one. And then what do we have? Oh yes, my masterpiece. Yes, this one here, this was for me, this was kind of like my Plan 9 from outer space. You know what I mean? This is the one they'll remember me for. This was my big one. Magnum Orgus. So I guess like all comic book nerds, I always had this desire to do a story that would be kind of like my Watchmen, you know, my big epic, where I deal with the important issues and have a million characters and, you know, all these interweaving plot threads, and it's all complex and intense. And so I started writing this story in 2010, started drawing it, and at the exact same time, I was working full-time as a storyboard artist at Hasbro Animation on Transformers and Kaijudo, and what else? Rescue Bots, 3 seasons of Transformers Prime. And then I bounced over to Disney, and I worked at Disney for a whole year on Elena of Avalor, a Disney princess show, if you can believe it. And then I bounced back to Hasbro and worked on Robots in Disguise, a new series, whatever it was, from like 2010 all the way to 2017. It was like this nonstop animation work kind of career streak, where I was just constantly bouncing back and forth working for Hasbro and Disney, Hasbro, Disney. And so being as busy as I was in my day job in animation, I didn't have a lot of time left over to work on a comic book, especially a big epic. So it actually took me like 7 years to make this story. And it's not just this volume. It's this volume too. This is the second half of it. Magnum Orgus, Part 1, Magnum Orgus, Part 2. I think both of these books, this one's like 250 pages, and I think this one's like 250 pages. The whole thing totaled like 500-page story. But yeah, I worked on this from 2010 to 2017. And the story was so damn big, my printing company I was using at the time couldn't even print the entire thing in one volume. I tried to do it that way. I did a test proof copy that way. and it was so fat it just fell apart, like the pages were falling out. Their binding or whatever, however they made their books, it just could not handle 500 pages. So I decided to split it up, and that kind of broke my heart at the time because I wanted it to come out and be this big, huge book, you know. But I kind of consoled myself by saying, well, remember when Dave Sim was doing Cerebus and he had that big epic storyline called Church and State, and he broke it up into 2 big fat phone book sized graphic novels, and he called it Church and State 1 and Church and State 2. That was kind of how I coped with it, to accept my fate of having to put out Magnum Orgus as 2 volumes. But anyway, yeah, so this is my big epic story. Has not been printed in the current ongoing comic book series, obviously. I can't wait to reprint it in the ongoing series, assuming the ongoing series continues to be successful enough to get that far. But like Lust More Nightmares, this is another one where if you want it now, if you don't want to wait for me to eventually get to it in the ongoing series, you can go on Indie Planet. Again, just Google Wulf and Batsy, Indie Planet, or Indie Planet, Wulf and Batsy, and you will be able to find this on there and order copies from Indie Planet. But yeah, that's my big one, Magnum Orgus. Probably the most satisfying creative project I've ever worked on as a writer and artist. Those 7 years I spent working full-time in animation and, on weekends dipping into this little world, this town where this story takes place and all the people who live there and dealing with their little lives for 7 years. It was, in a way, it was torturous because I was like, good Lord, when is this thing ever going to be done? But at the same time, I never wanted it to end. It was just so satisfying to tell a story that big with that many characters and spend that many years with them. And so anyway, so I finished it all up, self-published it. It came out March of 2017. And at that point, I felt like I really needed a break from Wulf and Batsy. and it was perfect timing because in August of 2017, our baby was born. And then that became my new project that I was completely consumed with and still am. But I sure didn't have time to work on comics then. So thank God I got this big, giant graphic novel out of my system before we had a kid, because if I hadn't finished it by then, I'd still be trying to finish it. But yeah, that's the big one, Magnum Orgus. So if you are interested in that one, you can order it now on Indie Planet, or if you want to wait, eventually I will get around to reprinting this thing in the ongoing series. So anyway, yeah, that's a whole bunch of junk from me, a big update post crowdfunding campaign. As far as what I'm doing next, my plan is to, as I said earlier, do a second chance campaign. And what I think I will do is launch a brand new crowdfunding campaign for issue 13. So anyway, this is all tentative plans. I'm still kind of figuring it all out, working it out. But yeah, we're moving forward. There's stuff in the works. And I will, like I said, only have one copy of Lust More Nightmares. So I'm going to keep that one for myself. I actually want to reread it. I haven't read that story in years now. But I may put, since I have multiple copies of Magnum Orgus 1 and 2, I may put these up on my website store. So if you guys are interested, you can order these. And also Tales from Blue Sagoth. Look how many copies I got of that stupid old thing. Might as well throw those up on the website store too. Again, for the hardcore collectors who have to have everything. All right, that's the update, and sorry I was away from doing videos for so long, but I'm going to try to get back on a regular schedule here. Just had to get through that campaign fulfillment. Wow. It was fun, but I'm glad it's over. And now I'm going to start the whole process over again for issue 13, coming very soon. All right, so talk to you later, guys. Please, you know what? Leave me some comments on this video. Let me know what you're thinking about all this stuff. And I love hearing from you guys, and the feedback is always encouraging. Keeps me inspired, keeps me moving forward. So talk to you later. Have a good one.